The research shows that as far as the initial impact is concerned, there really is no benefit of setting in one area versus another. Possibly a slight benefit setting in the back, but it's not real strong. I think what's most important is because the majority of aircraft accidents are actually survivable events. And the majority of aircraft fatalities are individuals that survive the initial impact, but they're unable to escape the airplane. So setting closest to the exit rows is probably the best strategy to make sure that you can get out of the airplane as quickly as possible. But what's really important about that is not knowing where the exits are. Always count the exit rows. You're not going to be able to see. There's probably going to be restricted visibility. So the bottom line is, set as close to an exit row as you can and know how many rows it is in case you have to feel and count on your way out. Absolutely not. Our current accident rate is extremely low. And we've all heard the numbers quoted. And of course, being the safest part of the trip to the airport is the flight, as opposed to the drive. No, you should not be nervous. We have an extremely robust, very safe transportation system. But that's what makes it so challenging from a research standpoint, is because these accidents still do happen. And how can we take a look at a system that is so safe and so robust normally every day that every once in a while there's a day where it's not? How can we capture that before it happens? How can we better understand that? That's where the goal is. One of the first things they're going to do is they're going to walk the scene and see if they can see the boxes, see what or how retrievable they think the black boxes, as we call them, are. The other thing they're looking for is to determine the degree of biohazard on the scene. So when the rest of the investigators arrive, what level of protection they're going to need. The third thing they're trying to do is they're just trying to get a feel for what potentially has happened. They're looking around, they're looking at trees, they're looking at other obstacles in the area, just getting a feel for kind of the big picture, if you will. Not looking at the small details yet, just the big picture to get a basic idea of what they're dealing with. But what I had to tell myself, what I had to focus on being the human performance investigator was trying to understand what happened before they got to the runway. I could not concern myself with the fact that we had a significant loss of life, that we lost our crew, because my focus needed to be on the decisions they made as they went out to the runway. Why did they think they were in the right place? So my mindset as I was preparing to go out to the scene was not necessarily focusing on the devastation and the wreckage, but going back and looking at the individuals and who they were and the decisions they made within minutes before the accident. That needed to be my focus. The National Transportation Safety Board does an amazing job of how they investigate these accidents. When it comes to understanding metallurgical failures, understanding the operations, understanding how the airplane might have failed, the crash sequence, very much so a foremost agency in exploring these ideas and trying to understand what happened. Where as an investigative body and also the industry as a whole and all of the investigators that are involved, where we need to concentrate a little bit better effort is trying to understand all of the various factors, how they come together to produce these events. In other words, rather than looking at the last individuals that made a few decisions right prior to impact or right prior to the beginning of the sequence, understanding the environment as a whole that they were in. No one goes to work to die. And everyone is trying to make the best decision they can based on the information they have. As an industry, as an agency, we need to do a better job of understanding that environment and the role that played, and not concerning ourselves so much with singling out an individual decision or act that took place most proximal to the event, but understanding the basis for those decisions. Many other countries do this, many other agencies do this, and it's time that we start doing this here in the United States. Maybe you could say that we're surprised that what we find is that we've had this horrific event and we don't find a smoking gun. That you continue to look and you find routine everyday operations operating how they do on a daily basis. But yet there's something about this day that was different. And typically that is not something that jumps right out at you and is not something that is so egregious that it's easy to capture early on. That's just not the types of accidents we have anymore.